right here in my pocket. If you have a cell phone, it most likely has a touchscreen. But let me ask you something. Do you actually know how it works? Let's take a look.
Something. Do you know anything about touchscreens or how the technology works?
I have absolutely no idea.
I was wondering if you know anything about touchscreens or how the technology works.
I actually don't. I just always just pressed a button and it seems to work, so.
Can you tell me about it?
Oh, the actual technology? Oh, does it sense like heat from your finger?
It seems like we actually don't know. So why don't we start from the beginning?
In 1965, E. A. Johnson proposed his idea for what became the first touchscreen in a paper he called Touch Display, a novel input-output device for computers. The first touchscreen had no pressure sensitivity. There was either contact or no contact, and it could not detect more than one touch at a time. In 1972, the first widely known touchscreen was developed at the University of Illinois called Plato 4, used for educational endeavors. 1983 marked the first touchscreen computer launched by Hewlett-Packard called the HP 150. The whole system cost nearly $3,000, but wasn't overly successful because it was hard to use. Touching the screen would block some of the IR rays that could tell where the finger was, and led to the term gorilla arm due to the fatigue stemming from sticking one's hand out for too long.
In 1984, multi-touch technology took a step forward when Bob Bowie of Bell Labs developed the first transparent multi-touch screen overlay. This was followed by the development of several personal technologies using touchscreens, such as the Apple Newton PDA. In 1996, Palm Incorporated released the Palm Pilot, marking the beginning of widely accessible, personalized touchscreen technology. These machines were small enough to keep on your person and inexpensive enough to become widely used.
While the Palm Pilot technology developed throughout the early 2000s with technologies such as the Treo and BlackBerry, these devices remained the domain of business people who needed the ability to read their email on the go. The iPhone, when it released in 2007, changed the game by introducing an accurate, inexpensive, and multi-touch screen. The two main types of touchscreens are resistive and capacitive. At the most basic level, touchscreens work by manipulating the conduction of electricity. Resistive touchscreens rely on, as the name suggests, the resistance or pressure of a touch on a screen. Resistive touchscreens are characterized by two layers separated by a space. When you press on the screen, you force the polyester on the resistive layer to touch the glass on the conductive layer and complete a circuit, just like pressing a key on a keyboard. Unlike their capacitive counterparts, resistive touchscreens work regardless of the object causing the pressure. This is why a stylus or gloved finger can work on these types of screens, but not on our iPhones. We often see resistive touchscreens in simple everyday interactions, such as ATMs and self-checkout kiosks, due to their cheap and durable nature.
A capacitive touchscreen is the other major type of touchscreen. Capacitive touchscreens maintain an electromagnetic field through a tiny electric grid. It works through the combination of three layers: a glass substrate, a conductive layer, and a protective glass, the part you touch. There are electrodes on the four corners of the screen that project a low-voltage electromagnetic field onto the middle layer. The outer two layers conduct this electricity, and when a conductor, like human skin, is applied to the screen, it creates an alteration in the electromagnetic field. A controller determines the amount of charge lost to your finger from each corner and is able to pinpoint the location on the screen being touched. When you bring your finger up to the screen, you alter the electrical field by a certain amount that varies according to where your hand is. That means you can't use a gloved hand or an object such as a pencil eraser as a stylus. However, you can buy special styluses that contain conductive material that makes them work on a capacitive screen. An example of a modern innovation that utilizes this technology are touchscreen-friendly gloves, which are made out of conductive material, allowing them to conduct charge and activate the touchscreen on your iPhone. While many people didn't think that touchscreen phones would catch on when the iPhone was released in 2007, touchscreens have since gone on to transform our world, with many innovations coming in the future. A company called Ubi has designed a projector system that could turn any surface into a touchscreen, such as a wall or a desk. Another company from Finland, called Sensig, has developed a way to make you feel textures on glass by manipulating electrical force between your finger and the screen. Beyond these new innovations, touchscreens are also changing the way we interact with the world. The iOS operating system, for example, utilizes intuitive motions such as sliding and pinching to manipulate interfaces. As you see in this clip, some babies even try to pinch zoom or swipe on physical magazines.
Wow, I guess the world really is at our fingertips.